Hey gang, it's Tim with Moneymaker Cafe. As you sit and you start your journey as a part-time entrepreneur, there's hundreds of questions, there's hundreds of fears, and then there's dreams, and there's aspirations, and there's excitement, and there's all these little pieces that build up in an emotional way when you start your part-time business. And for most of us, after attempting to do our business, attempting to work in our business, we start discovering gaps in our skills, we start discovering gaps in our knowledge, and we start discovering gaps in tools and resources that when we brainstormed everything out, it all seemed to work perfectly, as they say. And for me, it was the same way. When I started my journey with Moneymaker Cafe a few years back, I experimented and tried dozens of different niches and all kinds of tools and technology and parts and pieces. But over time of experimentation and over the time of making my mistakes and making my successes, I've kind of distilled down to a set of tools that I use in my daily workflow. There are actually 10 of them. So I thought I would share the 10 tools that I use the most often that would be helpful for an aspiring part time entrepreneur or someone starting on this journey. Some of these tools are free to use, some of them are paid to use, and some of them have various monetary models in both directions, paid services and free services. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one right now. This is more of an overview of the tools that I've discovered and found myself using. Well, the first thing up on this list is very simply an AI support agent like ChatGPT or Claude or any of the number of the other large language models out there. Uh, Now, there's so many things you can do with these models. We're going to have our own discussions on their uses, but overall, my favorite use for things like ChatGPT and Claude is brainstorming. If I get stuck in an idea or if I'm doing some research and I've come to the realization that, wait a minute, I'm stuck, I'm brain froze on how to convey a concept or maybe a particular product or good or service, I will a lot of times type out some messaging back and forth with ChatGPT or one of the other AI models just to brainstorm and bounce thoughts back to myself. And I can find this to be very useful at times. It can help you with grammar if you're someone like myself who is horrible at writing in English. They are very helpful in helping you polish out your written work. So there's benefits there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that particular one. We could spend months talking about what they can and can't do, so forth and so on. The second tool I like using is Canva. Uh, I background wise come from a radio, TV, film. I come from an IT background. So I've spent a lot of time in front of a camera, behind a camera, editing and working in studios and working in live shots and all kinds of environments over the years. So, to take something and use like Photoshop for me, or to use, Final Cut Pro or something like that for video editing is something in my skill set. However, for ease of use for most people who don't have a high technical background, a tool like Canva, which has a myriad of templates and colors and palettes and schemes and tools, can be very useful in creating professional style graphics and other media in a very quick timeline with minimal issues and an easy to use interface. And to be honest, a lot of my work that I use these days, I have Canva integrated into it. Not because I don't enjoy whipping out the old video editor or Photoshop for a few hours and doing something really cool. It's more of I have about 10 minutes to work on this. I can do a couple of things here in Canva, make it look nice, and send it on down the pipeline, right? So I guess it depends on your needs, but for a starting business person, a starting part-time entrepreneur, why not utilize something like Canva, which has a decent set of tools, even on a free plan? Another tool that I like to use, of course, and everyone needs one, everyone's going to need one, even if you're an affiliate marketer, if you're a SaaS provider, if you are a digital content creator, you're eventually going to need some form of website or web presence. So A third tool would be some type of website, such as a WordPress site. If you're doing e-commerce, maybe a Shopify type store. And keep in mind, I'm using these examples of tools that I use, or that I've tested. There's bunches of these services out here, from Wix to GoDaddy services to Shopify to WordPress, Hostinger, and other providers. But you're going to need some type of platform. Now, if you're not web savvy, or you don't want to spend a lot of time and effort on your website, picking something like Wix, GoDaddy, Hostinger that has a lot of AI incorporated tools and template systems to help you turn up your site with minimal knowledge, that's a good thing. Even Moneymaker Cafe has a website. It's at www.moneymakercafe.net. That's where we have our web presence, where we keep our blog and other type of materials for our guests and for our community. And that website has evolved probably 4 or 5 times in the last several months with information and stylings and so forth. But that's just the nature of the game. But you do need something that's going to give you a web presence. Now, how technical that is to set up and maintain depends on the background. Now, of course, we could have a whole another discussion, of course, on any of these items, but another tool that's very useful is an email marketing platform. Some real popular ones are like MailChimp is very popular. A lot of advertising, a lot of marketing behind it, or ConvertKit. There are quite a few email marketing platforms for working with your list of clients, your list of interested people, your community. All of those things kind of roll into an email marketing campaign as you grow your business. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the email list. We'll always, of course, come back and we're going to break down each of these 10 in future videos. But the other part of that, too, also is social media. Everybody's got it, right? Moneymaker Cafe. We have Facebook pages. We have Instagram pages, TikTok pages. We have YouTube channel. I mean, so we have a social media outlet on every single platform that you can possibly get, because for Moneymaker Cafe to build the community that we want to build, we need that type of social media presence. And if you were to be honest, if I was to take and make a single post today and go to every site and post it over and over again, it would take me hours to tweak it, to get the graphics, to do all those little pieces. Well, you can do that a lot faster with social media tools and scheduling services like Buffer, Hootsuite, Follower. There's a dozen out there. Each have their pros, each have their cons. And again, we will have separate videos kind of going in depth onto those particular platforms and talking about their individual pros and cons. But just know that as a tool, you're going to need one if you want to be efficient in your time use. It doesn't say that you can't use it. You could use Meta Business Suite and do other kind of things like that and post. And if you have the time and you want to have that kind of granular control over it, by all means, you can still do that. But for a single entrepreneur or solopreneur or a small startup entrepreneurship that has maybe 1 to 2, 3 people, time is more important than probably anything else, because it's your time that is the most valuable when you're starting out. Now, another tool that I like to use is a project management tool. Now, this may or may not be needed to start out with. You may or may not have to have one in your business, particularly if you are a solopreneur. You may not need a whole lot of project management type of things. But if you're working with a team of people, a group of people, if you're working with 4 or 5 people, or especially if they are geographically separated, you might need something like Trello or Asana or Microsoft Project even. So there's tools out there to help you kind of increase your time and make sure everyone stays on task for completing various projects. For myself, I've used a Trello a lot in the past, even for a single project, but usually those projects that I use Trello for are very in-depth, and they usually take months to complete, as opposed to maybe something that might take a couple of days to work on. That honestly might be this notepad sitting to my left-hand side, where I just make a simple outline of the tasks that need to be accomplished. I don't necessarily use it on every project, but on projects where I'm working on one for 4 or 6 months, a year or more, absolutely. It makes life so much simpler, especially if you're working with deliverables and timelines. Now, some other things, though, that might be useful, because again, with Moneymaker Cafe, one of the things we learned is we create digital content. We create ebooks, we create coaching, and we create workbooks, we create digital consuming content, but we also do affiliate marketing, because we use a lot of the tools in our business, our lights, our webcams, our computers, our laptops, the services that we like to use, the ones that we're willing to stand behind, we also do affiliate marketing for, and that's another tool in your toolkit. It's an opportunity to generate a different type of income, a more passive-based income, if you will. I'm not going to jump into the details of that. That's its own conversations, its own ball of wax that we will discuss separately as well. And another tool, and this is our next to last tool, because I know I'm running a little long on my conversations. My partner would say I'm a little bit long-winded here, but Google Analytics. Most people, when they start out, they know little to nothing about Google Analytics. They may not have even heard of it. And I hate to tell you this, if you're not a statistician, you're not into numbers and those type of things, you're going to struggle to want to spend time, whether it's on your YouTube channel, whether it's on Google Analytics, whether it's looking at the Meta Business Suite and looking at your analytics, or the analytics on your Pinterest page, if that's what you have. The numbers, the click-throughs, the click-through rates, the popularity of a topic, keywords, search engine optimization or SEO, all of these things play a part in how your business runs and how successful it can be. So you do have to eventually take some time, and you do have to take a dive into it to an extent. I'm not going to get into it here. That, again, a whole separate set of videos that are going to tackle those type of issues for you in more depth. Video editing software is really important. After all, if you're doing social media, YouTube Shorts, you're doing TikTok videos, those type of things, right? You need that. You need to be able to take the videos you make, say, for example, like the one right here, the one that I'm working on right now. You need to be able to edit it, to clean it up, to add graphics. Maybe you need to add some lower thirds, or you need to add some closed captioning to it. You know, there's various things that you might need to be able to do to your videos. And in order to do that, you need some form of video editor, whether that's Adobe Premiere or Premiere Rush, CapCut, Final Cut Pro. There's dozens of them. There's iMovie. There's a dozen or more on the market that I can easily name off the top of my head, but that does not mean that it's right for you starting out. For me, as I mentioned earlier, something like Final Cut Pro would be something normal for me, because that's something I've used for years. However, maybe not for you, and maybe you don't need that. So we'll take a deep dive into that subject also with these others. But the last tool I'm going to cover is some form of storage, cloud storage. Most people are like, well, why do you need cloud storage? Well, if you're going to do a lot of video files, and you're going to do a lot of text files, a lot of blog files, a lot of research, after a while, you're going to have a lot of information and video and pictures and graphics on a computer. And if that computer goes out and you didn't back it up, or you don't have a backup, or it's not in a cloud storage service, you've hurt yourself badly. For example, myself, 3.5 weeks ago, my primary computer went down. The one that I use to do most of my video editing and things like that, it completely stopped. Power supply exploded, melted the board. The whole thing is useless. Yeah, I can salvage the hard drive, and I certainly did. I moved to my other computer, was able to retrieve my files, but the good thing was the majority of my work was saved in my cloud services, such as Google Drive, so forth and so on, right? There's quite a few of them, Dropbox, etc., right? it's important to have those backups available, not only as a backup, but also if you're working in remote locations. Because what if you forgot something and went, yeah, I need that piece? You can grab it from your cloud storage, even if you're in another city, another town, or sitting by a river. So those things are important. Now, as I wrap up here, Moneymaker Cafe is a community of people who want to help each other grow. Just like there are people who support and grow YouTube channels and Facebook channels and Instagrams and TikToks and things like that. Moneymaker Cafe is the community resource for part-time entrepreneurs. In other words, start building your will a little bit at a time while you work full-time, so that a year from now, 2 years, or 5 years from now, if that's what you want to do, you can take that part-time side hustle or that part-time entrepreneurship and move it into a full-time endeavor. That's what Moneymaker Cafe is. It is for the working men and women. It is for those people who work side hustles. It is for the people who want to dig that well before they absolutely have to have it, so that if they need it for an emergency, if their retirement peters out, their job peters out, they could walk away comfortably because they have their own business to fall back onto. That's what Moneymaker Cafe is. If you like the content, if you have any questions, please, down below, check out our links for our website and our other social media pages. Please like, ring the bell, subscribe, as we bring more content to you, little by little, piece by piece. Remember, Moneymaker Cafe, the community for the part-time millionaire.